Necromunda exists in this very unique space in wargaming.
Listen up, Umi. This is a podcast with the most ducker. This is Forge the Narrative.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Forge the Narrative. We are the Bell Souls podcast. My name is Paul Murphy. I'm joined by Adam Camilleri.
G'day.
How's it going, my man?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm tooling up for my big trip overseas next Friday. Got almost everything booked in and ready to rumble. And yeah, cannot wait. Going to be out there in the big wide world of Warhammer. See if I can tool up any games along my European gallivanting, Europe and UK.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to hear about your trip. And of course, whenever you get back, or at least when we get to a point where we can record again to talk about where it was. Tanya cannot be here tonight, and Red's still out there. But, hopefully we get everybody reunited before too much longer. And then, back to full strength here because 11th edition is off to the races, chugging along at full steam. We've seen so a couple things to talk about. We're going to talk about 11th. We're going to talk about some of the stuff we're seeing out there in the meta right now. We're going to talk about some of the factions that I think people had to go back to the writer's box on a bit and kind of reinvent. And then also want to talk about the new Necromunda that is coming out, the Necromunda Skirmish, which is, I'll save it for there. But I think some people have, at least some of the folks I've been concerned or talked to about it, have been concerned about some things. And I don't know that that's valid, but we'll talk about it. We'll let everybody be their own judge as far as that goes. So as far as like what's going on out there in Warhammer, there are some factions that I think have had to kind of reinvent themselves, and that is along the lines of things like World Eaters. I think World Eaters and Death Guard and things like that are seemingly struggling a little more than they were a few months ago.
Yeah, so all these different, of course, everyone comes into edition facing different demands of them, across, how do I have to evolve my strategy? What units? I mean, one of the things you always tell people about, especially new edition change, go have a look at your codex again. Go dig through it and see what's in there. Look for the depth, look for the pivots, things like that. Especially now we've got like stepper points and things like that. There might just be that there is a unit that does 85% of what that one does, but you don't pay the stepper cost in happy days. But all these new things are being demanded of us. I think Death Guard are running into some particular issues in a lot of disposition matchups. Of course, they're built very well to play things like take and hold and priority assets, which are two of the stronger ones at the moment. But
we got to talk about that too, because that's a change from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, when they get into certain disposition matchups versus like Recon Disruption or some of the ones that are taken a little bit less, and there's a lot more demanded of them every turn in order to shut down their opponent's scoring, they're coming into some issues. In addition to that, some of their long-range fire support pieces aren't interacting with hidden as well as I think some Death Guard players may like. Despite that, they're still quite a robust army. They're just kind of in that same pool as stuff like Custodes and a few other factions where they're very durable and have a lot of tools, but getting to use them is a little harder.
Great points. And World Eaters I'm talking about, what they have to reinvent themselves a bit, is that staging is still very much a thing. Like you can do it, but now some folks are figuring out ways to get their vehicles further across the table sooner, and only needing to touch a little bit of terrain to open up access to a lot more firing opportunities than they've had before. And so some of those units that I think beg for a turn to only be, only so far away off that midpoint of the table are getting shot soon.
Yeah. I think of all the melee factions in the game, World Eaters took the changes kind of the worst, unfortunately. Case in point is that their firing support, their shooting pieces are all Bliss Skill 4, so they take cover very poorly, and they can't really get any
-1s.
Yeah, they can't really get a lot of on-demand pluses to hit. They have, good access to rerolls and a huge amount of shots to throw, but they're almost looking like an orc firing platform now rather than a former Astartes, which is very in keeping with World Eaters. It is.
You got to find ways around it, either to get the the rapid fires or the better things that when they connect really make a punch.
Yeah, to make it matter more. And then their most devastating melee pieces, things like Exalted 8-bound or regular 8-bound, it's just like kind of 3 wounds with a 3 up, 5 up. Like, so them being hidden and trying to stage, a good firing tank just toes in to see them and they die. Like, it's just that, like, I think world eaters are connecting on their terms a little less. And I think that needs to be rethought out or
Look,
redistributed as power.
if they had just stayed loyal to the Emperor, they would have jump out.
Because Blood Angel's doing so well. Good. What's the number one at the moment? What's the number one Space Marine faction in the game at the moment? You may have heard of them.
Think it's Dark Angels? You think it's Dark Angels?
It is. It's Dark Angels. Like a member of the inner circle would say, we just assert. It's actually debatable what is the best, but I'm going to tell you it's Dark Angels.
I know. I think Space Wolves have been doing really well.
So here's the thing, Space Wolves are sitting in that category with Custodes and Death Guard, like I mentioned, where they're kind of these above average durability armies that predicated off a 2-up, 4-up, 2-up armor, 4-up invuln. And what they do like best in show, like freaking A tier, what they do is the best. But it's when you force them to have to play a wide game, they're starting to get exposed a little bit. But that's only against some of the most extreme armies in the game.
So in the first couple of weeks of this edition, everyone was talking about Purge the Foe, Purge the Foe, Purge the Foe, and then everything else was like a distant second and third. And now, look, if you see me in a collared shirt like this for this show, that means we just recorded the Warhammer Meta Chaser. And the Warhammer Meta Chaser show, we talk about upcoming tournaments for the week that's about to be there. We talk about the factions you're going to see. We talk about the disposition breakdowns. We highlight a couple of lists, and that's some of the things we do on another show. So if you're curious about that kind of stuff, you can check us out over there. But what we did see this week and the week before is that Purge the Foe, where it was heavy in that number 1 slot of chosen dispositions, is now firmly and by a wide distance in the 3rd slot. Whereas Taken Hold and Priority Assets, or Priority Assets I like called Taken Hold Light, is in the 2nd position, and then a big jump in between Purge the Foe, followed by Reconnaissance, and then trailing Disruption.
Yeah, for example, there's a 330 player event coming up in Texas this weekend where both Priority Assets and Taken Hold have 100 or more players taking that disposition. And then between the other 3, you have 50, 40, and then 12 for the other 3 dispositions, that being in order: Purge at about 50 odd, then about, I think it's mid 40s for Reconnaissance, and then only I think it was 12 or 16 people playing Disruption. So it's obvious people haven't. Well, I've got this theory about Disruption that only certain armies are going to be able to play it at top efficacy, game after game, opponent after opponent, and those ones are very plain to see. Drukhari, Eldari, GSC are very good, but I think there is all comers lists now that can play Disruption, but they just need to be designed from the ground up to play them. Like, I think there is some Space Marine lists that can play Disruption quite well. Chaos Space Marines can do it very well. Hell, I even think it might be one of the secret places where World Eaters get a lot of juice back, but those will need to be designed from the ground up, and it might be a couple of weeks away from showing its face.
What was the Disruption list we did actually highlight? Was
Brazen
a World Eaters,
yeah. So the gun, which is the weird combo for me, because Brazen, like, if you're taking a lot of World Eaters guns or World Eaters tanks, that don't have to be guns. It can be Mauler Fiends and go punch them and stuff. But if you're doing that, sure, you're going to clear stuff off quite effectively, but you're going to come into some pitfalls where you can get, cool, 1 Mauler Fiend charges 1 unit of guardsmen on an objective, another unit of guardsmen heroics onto that objective, and the Mauler can't kill both. You just have enough. It doesn't have enough attacks, stuff like that.
If you're going, I mean, this is hypothetical, so we didn't actually dig in too much to the list, but if you're going with that route of taking the World Eaters shooty stuff, which not necessarily advocating for that, but I'm saying if you're opting for that, those are the guns that do the most when they actually hit. And that is a way to still play the faction and maybe compete at that level that you want to compete.
Yep, for sure. And I'm of the opinion the first things people should do is find out how, like, just make an all-comers list, like a good, stable all-comers list, and then try it on every disposition you can, like, that you have access to. Like, just try it on all of them, even if it's just like 1 or 2 games, because not only will you get an understanding of what fits best for your play style and what you like to play, but you'll also get an insight into how your list is going to play that one and then play into that one. And so I think it's a great, if you've got 10 games that you haven't decided what to do with, play 2 games on each disposition that you have access to.
I like that. Even if you're kind of running through, like, I know in one of the episodes we advocated, like, playing through turn 1, even if it is only by yourself or whatever, just to see, like, what are you called to do, the actions per turn that you are called to do in your average disposition against, a couple of other different dispositions, including the mirror.
Mm.
Like, and can you do that? Can you max? Did you even take the list to max out what's on
Yeah.
face up on your
Yeah.
cards
Yeah.
in the first turn of the game?
Yeah. Anytime, I like to say, like, anytime you have more than 2 cards in front of you and you can't score 2 cards that turn, like, let's say you have 3 cards in front of you and you've got 2 cards, you can't score 2 of them in one turn. Should you have something else in your list? Like, and sometimes the answer is no, but sometimes the answer is yes. I should have had this another unit of scouts, or I should have done this, should have done that. Yeah. Anytime you have like a full grip, like 5 or more cards, and you can't pop 3 of them on a turn of your choice, ask yourself, like, am I not taking the appropriate tools?
Objectively, and I think that's one of the hardest things. And this is something where, especially in this game where there's an emotional connection to our models that I also share. By the way, it's like,
Me too.
do I really want to cut that list? Do I want to invest that part of my list? Do I want to invest time into making something else to put in there? Do I want to, all that type of stuff? But I think that if you're ranking scoring the points high, I think looking at that up very objectively is something that is you're gonna get a lot of rewards from that here in this early part of the edition. It's going to set you up, I think, to more for more success. But we've seen, the game itself altering some of the detachments and the mission matchups and things like that to help balance that along the way, which I think we all could have assumed that would come, and that's happening. But it's kind of neat to see it happen.
It is really cool. I mean, I'm super impressed with I feel like, yeah, I think I called it last week. GW is just kind of flexing their new balance mechanic levers or muscles. The one, like, to your point, showing willingness to change the layout of the table, or change the terrain layout. So one of the things that has changed most demonstrably for Purge the Foe is that they're mostly playing on 6 objective missions now, which means when they play against Take and Hold, and for Take and Hold to get the most majority of their points, they need to be holding a central objective. That central objective is now 2 objectives. You're not having to just literally live or die off whether you can clear them and hold it, clear them and hold it.
You wiped off that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a lot more agency in that exchange, and that's true for quite a few different formats. The one I want to highlight as well is Disruption got some great agency versus reconnaissance, which was, in my opinion, if the recon player had a brain, you were going to have a bad time. So that one's changed quite a bit, which is really lovely for
liking it. So going back to the drawing board for some of these lists, kind of the original point of the topic is, it's like I feel like we've seen list also pivot, like Tau have pivoted just to different things. I'll say, as a Blood Angel player, I've done the same thing, pivoted to some different things, just to Emperor's Children. I think we've seen a big shift in their list too, and they're the ones, I think, if you are to, like, we're having this discussion in the green room, it's like Emperor's Children are largely just Marine bodies, toughness 4, 3+ armor saves. You do your best or whatever, but if you take the right things and get them in the right spot, there's almost none better that do it than them right now.
They like walk the line of I am glass cannon versus, well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna call something right now. Emperor's Children are the Harlequins of chaos, because they're squishy as all hell, but they give you all the tools. If you can execute, it's all there at your fingertips, and usually it's on demand as well. Like, because you have so much speed, advance and charge, advance and shoot, fall back and do as you please. Like, you just have all the agency there as long as you can line it up correctly. They kind of have it all right now, and now that they have a premium fire piece in the Defiler as well, and I'm not going to call it yet, but Fulgrim's looking almost usable. There is a lot of good stuff going on for them, and once again, I said a similar thing to you previously. Like, there's a couple of factions out there at the moment where you can't point at an untakeable unit. Like, you can't tell me there's a unit for Emperor's Children, maybe the Terminators, that you just really don't want to take. But even the Terminators have a detachment that make them feel a lot better, whether they're like, pushing up to like always want to take them or not.
We're referring to things that seem to be real inefficient choices of things that like there's something else in the decks that does whatever you're trying to get from them a little bit better as well. If you're only focused on efficiency is what we're talking about, untakeable.
Yeah, I mean, so the reference I have is Guard. Obviously, I played a lot of Guard. I've played Guard for 12 years as the only competitive army that I played. And over edition, I'd be like, well, these are of the 500 guard units, here's the 7 I take, and for years, these are the 7 I will take, and then there's very little flex. Whereas I feel like with the dispositions and the detachment changes, it's very hard to find a completely untakeable lot of factions. Guard still has plenty because there's 500 of them. It's very hard to balance 500 and make 500 takeable models. Same for Adeptus Astartes. When you have an infinity units, making them all relevant at the same time is very hard. I much prefer like a rotating kind of a system. It's like, this for the next 6 months, we're going to jack up Vanguard veterans. We're going to give them a 1 DP detachment that make Vanguard veterans gassed up, and we're going to do that. If they can do the same for Infernus Marines, Reavers when they're ready to do that, stuff like that. But keeping all those things relevant and equal choices is a very different when you have so many balls in the air, so to speak. But there are quite a few factions that are doing it. Votann is the one I was talking about before. There's you can't point in a bad unit in Votann, an untakeable unit. They're all just kind of great.
Yeah, the utility, how you want to use them. And I think that's one of the coolest things about the Votann is like they're kind of a sleeper faction because granted, they are still fairly new. There may not be the same number of players in every region that play Votann, but everything that's come out has always been utility for them in some. So there are like multiple ways or at least always some way to build a list that can get you on those 5-1 records.
You know what the great comparison? So compare Votann and Adeptus Mechanicus. Maybe AdMech has a handful more units now, but I can call out like 9, like maybe not 5 units off the top of my head that are like you just didn't. They've never been good. Cerberus Sulfur Hounds, Cerberus Raiders, absolutely been gassed at various points. Cerberus Sulfur Hounds, what? Who? Why does this unit exist? The Scatros, go Gadget Legs. Huh? Who's that guy? And one of the versions of their flyers, of the Transonic Raptor Waptor Da Vinci, who cares?
Looks cool.
Looks, no, not a fan.
Looks real cool. Oh, man.
Not a fan of that Arch Magnus's designs.
So hear me out with the Astra Militarum. 3 Baneblades. 3 Baneblade equivalents.
I will up your ante 4 Baneblade.
You do have to score. You do have to play the game, right?
Only if they're alive.
Yeah.
No, three's fine.
Actually,
yeah.
I don't think people have truly maximized the pivots on a Baneblade and all that talk about like you can get a Baneblade in the center of the table basically on turn 1 and shoot their backlines in some of these boards.
You absolutely can. I mean, I'm looking at a variant right now that was sent to me by a good mate of mine named Mitch. He's got a Baneblade, a Banesword, a Doomhammer, a Storm Sword with Titan Killer, and then he's got 1 Priest and 2 Engine Seers.
Yeah.
Clean.
Okay. Like, I think you need a little more than that. I think you need a little.
Cowards talk.
That's fair too. Look, I've not played that list. Maybe you don't. Maybe because your opponent has no army left, you're able to be everywhere and just sit on the objectives. You don't care because you're not trying to pace them in scoring.
I think with 4, you've got 4 Baneblades. You can effectively move 1.5 per time. Can't even effectively move 2, 1.5. Get effective movement phases.
I think 3 and then flankers.
Yeah, 3 and some stuff is the correct choice.
3 and some stuff.
I think 2. I wrote a list for Tanya with 2 in it, and one of them was a Stormlord that had nothing but Bulgrin inside of it, and it shot in excess of 72 heavy bolter equivalent shots, and then the tank.
Love it. That sounds actually pretty good. So it's a brewer's paradise out there. Is kind of where I'm going. It's like if you're curious about will something work, you can try the disposition type, to see if you've got the tools on the table, regardless of how many shots you've got. Do you have enough things and the types of things to get you in position to do whatever your disposition is calling you to do? And then there's the other layer of the actual like detachment rules, and then the actual data sheets themselves, if you are able to kind of contend with what you're seeing out there. And I think it's just still a brewer's paradise. And the most interesting stat that you could really put your finger on is that Purge the Foe has taken a nosedive to what it was before. And so if you were in those early weeks of the game and just getting kind of units eliminated, and is the win condition it felt kind of one-dimensional, I think that has changed.
Well, in addition to that, everyone lost easy access. So all the 1 DP access to Purge the Foe is gone. So flexing into it is less of an option. It now needs to be a deliberate choice, which I think is probably for the best for the time being. But I would not be also surprised if we see some Purge the Foe added back in on 1DP detachments in the near future, whether they take a month or two away from it, gather enough statistics without Purge hanging over all the stats, which would have skewed things. I'm just really excited. I think the design of the game at the moment is the most robust for keeping people interested, excited, churning on lists and stuff. I think this is just going to stay interesting forever. I love it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm enjoying all the slots and the theory of list craft and everything else, trying to get my high score in the Battleforge. And look, there we go. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back, talk a little bit about the new Necromunda stuff coming out, the enthusiasm we've seen for people having that out there. And we'll be back in just a minute. Check out our sponsors, check out our links, maybe pick up a t-shirt, all that kind of stuff. See you in a minute.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Everybody, we are back. If you were just tuning into this one, you found this video before you found the other one. There is a video from the day before, which is part 1 of the show, where we talk about basically the detachment changes and people's spirits up about brewing, because it's a brewer's paradise out there for 40K. And it's also pretty cool out there for just Warhammer in general. I want to talk about the new Necromunda Skirmish. Games Workshop was kind enough to send a copy to look at, and kind of going back to their roots here, if you ask me, with the Eschers and Goliath gang in the starter box. And I didn't necessarily expect this before I opened it up, but it comes. I thought, so full disclosure, when I saw Necromunda Skirmish, I thought it was going to be like a real lean version of Necromunda. And I think that some players out there, especially the ones that I've talked to that have been super fans. Oh, by the way, my name's Paul Murphy. I'm joined by Adam Camilleri.
Oh, hi.
Jumped into it. So some fans of Necromunda who really appreciate the crunchiness of Necromunda, and I think it's important to talk about the origins and the very history of the game as well. We're worried that was going to disappear from the skirmish side of it, and so my initial read of this indicates that is not the case, that there is still a bunch of that, like, sink your teeth into it and live in it and really get to know in it and experience your gang and your characters is still there.
Yeah, Necromunda exists in this very unique space in wargaming at the moment. Games Workshop's doing a great job, by the way, of kind of making a game for everyone, no matter what kind of interest level you have. Like, you have Kill Team is actually quite a crunchy skirmish game. I mean, it's like the rules are quite deep, but you can tear down from that to some of the spearhead stuff. For Age of Sigmar, it's pretty straight up and down. You get into the game really quick. There's enough crunchiness for the crunchy, but there's also quite streamlined. And then you, like, on the skirmish level, all the way at the extremity of like dense crunchy goodness, lives Necromunda, where it's still straddling that kind of D&D meets war game feel.
Imagine, D&D, Blood Bowl,
correct. Blood Bowl still here.
Kill Team, kind of crammed together. And what I will say is, like, it's got a quick start guide that you within a few pages you're directed to look into this book and only look at the few pages that you need out of this to play an entry level game of Necromunda. So, which I think is actually pretty cool. Now, some of the criticisms that I've heard about the game is that, one, people thought it wouldn't be crunchy. And I think that the crunchier you get is more of a niche, maybe, but it is also part of the charm that is Necromunda. And I think that, at least what I've read from every single one of these pages felt accessible. I did not feel the weight of needing several books to play the game, although all the books are still supported out of this book. I believe I did not feel like I needed to know all that, and I felt like I could get on the table pretty quickly with the models that I have.
So if I was to want anything for Necromunda, I'd want it to be easier to get on the table, but then it just to go just rabbit hole after rabbit hole after that, where it just goes very deep and very nuanced from there. And I mean, I remember playing Mordheim back in the day. And
back in like that end of, like, somewhere in the second edition vein, or whatever. Like this is when these rules came out. So the origins of this.
We had a bookshelf. We had a bookshelf to play Mordheim, and while that was fun, I don't want that to always be the case. You know, I don't want that just to be the expectation in perpetuity.
I think that it can exist in whatever Necromunda is or becomes or whatever. Like nothing in here said. I mean, heck, there are pictures of the bikes and vehicles and stuff, vehicle rules and things in this book, which means that all that stuff is very much still supported, and is a part of the way go forward. But now let me caveat when I said that every page felt accessible. I have a base knowledge of this game. Like I've played through all editions. I've played what was the like 40K and 8th did like a shadow something or whatever, like a almost like a Necromunda light version.
Oh yeah.
Shadow Strike or something. I can't chat or comments. Let me know how I'm butchering that. But there was I mean I played it in almost every incarnation because I enjoy this as well. So I have a base knowledge of this, and so maybe that's helping this be accessible. But I felt like the book was laid out in a way that just kind of led me on the path to getting my models on the table, and you still get there's still all the host of actions that you can do, interacting with the table, the coup de grace, crawling through tunnels, like there's all that stuff is still there. And I feel like that is, part of the spirit of Necromunda, which I think that some players were worried about it not being there and therefore them not enjoying this as much. And I believe that it is there. The other criticism that I've heard is that the terrain that comes in the box is a little one-dimensional. It's flat, but not flat, but there's one level to the game. And I will also say, I celebrate the point of Necromunda of like building your hive tiles. Like that's a real thing. Like that is for the deep Necromunda players, maybe even the casual Necromunda players. That is like part of the hobby is them building their environment. And this doesn't take away from that. This doesn't mean you can't do it. This is what came in the box. So this is like, I think I would rather have, the box, the two gangs and the cool rule book and the cards and everything at an accessible point, and then still hobby my way into multi-level hive cities when I'm ready to.
I have just been sitting here reading up on the history of Necromunda. Do you know what year Necromunda was first launched?
I want to say, 93?
A little bit higher.
Oh, 97? 95?
Lower. 95.
Okay.
Yeah, 1995 was the first, but it was based on a rule set written in White Dwarf in 1990 and 1991 called Confrontation. And so they saw how much people enjoyed that and wanted a like Underhive based skirmish game and created Necromunda. And it just so happened that that Confrontation game, the story for that was written in the Hive world of Necromunda. And so they just make it
the Necromunda Spire. The Hive Primus or whatever. It has an Imperial Fist like bastion in the top of it. It's crazy. It's crazy. This book has a lot of that history too. But in the early days of Necromunda, you could do things that use like Eldar Farseers and things like that in your, if I remember right. I could be wrong as well.
It's a different world.
But now it's solidified into this. And, I think that it was that next version of Necromunda that came out was just their own miniature lines and gangs and stuff. But
yeah.
But I think it's all. I think it's all there. Like I think that I think if you're just jumping into it, this is going to be a good point to get into it because I felt like the rules, even the quick start guide, is only just a few pages, and it directed you to the few pages in the book that you needed to play a game. And then like the first scenario is just like who's alive at the end is basically. So
the finest interaction.
But you still got your skills. You've still got the individualness of the models, I think, as they progress. And anyway, I'm looking forward to going into this with some fresh eyes. Like I have a Goliath gang. One of my projects from several years ago was to paint up a gang of Goliath, largely because I wanted to paint their crocodile, and I did that also.
Yep. A fine motivation.
But whatever, you can't, whatever motivates you, whatever calls to you from that faction or whatever. But looking forward to it, getting these models on the table. And I think people do. I think this is going to be a neat set. And if you have been curious about it, I think this is a way to ease back into it because it is self-contained, but you can still use the other stuff if you have it. Or you could and I say this all the time, you could play this like a board game you wanted to.
Yeah, I have one request for Necromunda. I am not sure how Necromunda players will feel about this because I know you're a very specific group. I love some of the things they've done in kill team to make a kind of co-op feel. Like it's you and some mates versus the Red Terror or
You
the
can do that.
Nightbringer or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
There's a
What if it
PvE.
was? Yes, I would like that to become one of the a more mainstay flavor of Necromunda, where it's you and your mates, maybe 2 bands together versus some dungeon master controlled abides or whatnot. I think that would be a sick flavor to add in.
Dude, you could do that with this. I think. I don't think you
Oh,
you would
really?
need a
Sick.
overlay. Yeah, I think you could. No, I mean like you would need somebody being the DM or whatever. But I think it's
Yeah,
very
for sure.
easy to do something like that, especially if you had your
Sick.
like you built your gang outpost or whatever, and you were
Mm.
under assault. And like I think that's
Such a great way to get kids involved with Necromunda
yeah.
as well, which I think is awesome.
Well, anyway, it's up for pre-order by the time you're hearing this. And if you're concerned about the 2 things that I highlighted, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think you need concerned about those things. I think that like the terrain that comes in the box is just that. It's the terrain that comes in the box. It's not the only terrain that you have to play with. And then the crunchiness of it is still there, but you have to still all the actions. You got the skills. You still got the way you the die rolls and the attributes of the models is all still there. So let me know what y'all think. Take a look. But please peruse the stuff on the Warhammer community site and the other people that are getting either for detailed into it if you are on the fence about what you think is a great purchase. But at least those things that I've heard from potential concerned either old heads or new players, I don't think that they're that much of a concern.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah, and look, changing gears a bit, is that we are also kind of just recording on the back of San Diego Comic-Con, and some let's say some friends of ours that we met through Warhammer. Weta has debuted some cool stuff to like over the last few weeks that are very Warhammer related.
To be fair, I'm not sure whether's ever unveiled not cool stuff, but this is Archaon, the Everchosen, in his old world glory, just on simply no 3-headed dragon here, just on his hell steed, arm raised, Slayer of Kings held high. It looks absolutely sick.
I think that's the actual like artwork come to life.
It is. Yeah,
yeah,
it absolutely is. As with all the vast majority of the Weta projects, they will take it from an iconic image, either whether that be the original miniature or whether it is, and just pull it off the page and bring it to life. This thing is spectacular. They've done so much with black here as well, because I mean, of course, it's it's Warriors of Chaos, baby. There's only so much color in that palette when you're working with Undivided, and yeah, they've done a lot with not much. I mean, the color palette used to paint this is like red and orange scale, metallic and black, and it looks fantastic.
It really does, and this is one of those. Just the character has evolved over time into this mythic, legendary figure, and seeing it in all its glory here. And if I remember correctly, I heard Jules say it's in a different scale than some of the other things. So you will even stand out in your collection, and that's to fit this monumental piece into something that fits on your scale. Yeah, 1/10 a scale statue, limited edition to 650.
Yeah,
like wow,
dude, incredible. All bangers from Weta.
So I know we say this if you've heard us talk on another show, maybe another channel, that these we say a lot that they are fans of the property of Warhammer, and a lot of them got their start like painting miniatures, and all that love for that fandom comes out in this and everything that they do. And I'm just really like, it's neat to see it coming out for Warhammer consistently, like more
fully
pieces.
Agree. It's just so awesome to have them involved with our IP. Like, it's incredible the game has become as big as it has been. The company's been big enough that it can bring in like some of these just like best in the world at what they do, like businesses to do incredible stuff like this.
It bears repeating. You talk about like Abaddon, is another one that's a Black Legion, largely black colors on the model, but every time you look at it, there's like some other bit of detail that jumps out at you that they thought to put in there, and now it's a focal piece. Like each and every time you walk by it, it's like, that is so cool. Let me inspect that part. I didn't see it before, but now I see it, and now I just want to live in it for a minute.
Exactly right.
That's the detail. I love it. But anyway, limited to 650, so it's worth talking about in case it is on your radar and you want to splurge and get something cool. Talk about you will not be disappointed. Everything I've ever looked at from Weta, including the helmets, like they've got that line of helmets.
Dude, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that are just such neat to hold these artifacts in your hands and have them potentially in your home.
Mm.
Like what a time to be a fan of Warhammer. Anyway, that's our show this week, and appreciate everybody hanging out and listening to us. If you've made it this far or this part of the show, please hit the like, share, and subscribe. Do not forget to come back and check us out as we're going to do more of these. Keep it going. Warhammer's great. See you soon, everybody.
See you soon.
I don't know what they said, but I already subscribed. You better do it too.